Welcome back to UK Homicide. Jenna Stevens, also known as Tia Carter, is best known as Tracy Andrews. She was born on the 9th April 1969 and was the middle child of 3 siblings and sister to several half-siblings. In 1990, Andrews gave birth to a baby daughter, but separated from her partner a year later. Her dreams of becoming a model were only partly realized, and her main work was that of a barmaid. Andrews had a long history of being volatile and possessive with her partners and didn't like them having any social life away from her. In October 1994, she began a relationship with a local man named Lee Harvey, who moved in with him 3 months after they met. Their off-again, on-again relationship was marked by volatility, with both being possessive and jealous of each other's relations with other men and women. The couple frequently argued, which sometimes escalated into violence and led to the police being summoned. Friends and family members of Andrews and Harvey were uneasy about their dysfunctional relationship. Harvey had confided in both his friends and his own mother regarding Andrews' emotional problems. Police were called to the house in late October 1996, just over a month before Harvey was murdered. After discovering that Andrews had bitten Harvey on the neck on one occasion, Harvey's mum, Maureen, told him that they should separate for the sake of his daughter. Other family members of Harvey warned against him pursuing a relationship with Andrews. Andrews' mother also told her daughter not to continue their flawed relationship. On Sunday, 1st December 1996, after another day of fierce arguments, Andrews and Harvey went to a local pub for the evening in an attempt to reconcile. Andrews claimed that on the way back to their flat in the Becks, Alvechurch, Worcestershire, the pair became involved in a road rage incident with 2 men. She claimed a car had followed her and Harvey, and that 2 men from the vehicle had confronted and attacked them after stopping them on a country lane. The couple's car had stopped near a cottage. The commotion had alerted a male resident living meters away who discovered Harvey stabbed on the road and a bruised and bloodied Andrews standing by him. He immediately ran back to his house to call the emergency services. Police noted that Harvey's car had apparently not stopped on the road in any hurry, but had been neatly parked on the side of the road. Harvey had been stabbed in the back, throat, and chest 42 times, with a fatal wound through an artery in the neck.
Just 36 hours after Lee's murder, and still bearing the scars of the attack, Tracy Andrews agreed to a police request to face the media.
Tracy had bruising and a slight cut and graze above one eye. She was in some sort of turmoil, as you may well expect. We didn't want to put undue pressure on that, but we did have some things that we needed to do to get this inquiry moving.
At a press conference on the 3rd December 1996, Andrews elaborated on the supposed attack, saying that a fat man with staring eyes had stabbed Harvey after getting out of a Ford Sierra in which he was a passenger.
Some breaking news this morning. West Mercia police are appealing for witnesses to what's being called a road rage attack.
There's been some kind of altercation between 2 drivers. It's ended up with someone being stabbed to death. It had to be a big story right from the off.
I was the duty senior detective on call, so obviously I made my way there. The scene at that time was cordoned off. Forensic officers were beginning to attend.
This was potentially a road rage murder.
The dead man, Lee Harvey, aged 25 and father of a baby daughter. Travelling alongside him, his girlfriend, Tracy Andrews, 27, a single mum, barmaid, and part-time model.
This was an attractive blonde woman and attractive, handsome man who'd been stabbed to death in absolutely horrific circumstances, and it just upped the ante on the story even further.
This version of events would be initially believed, in no small part to Andrews having signs of facial injury. Over the next 2 weeks, police carried out investigations to track down Harvey's murderer. Although Andrews claimed that she and Harvey had been attacked in a road rage incident, in her press conference of 3rd December, she said that the driver of the attacker's car was not to blame and appealed for him to come forward, something which the police questioned as the driver had supposedly facilitated the attack on Harvey. Andrews seemed to contradict her original statement, giving different times to her original story, and police had to step in and stop her. At the same time, she told her story to the press. Police also noted that Andrews had much to say for a supposedly shocked person. After the press conference, police began to question Andrews' story. A witness statement from an adjacent cottage said they could hear a female calling for help. Police found no evidence that a second car had overtaken Harvey's car.
Battered and bruised, Tracy Andrews had been interviewed by police.
Tracy's account was that she and Lee had been at the Marlborough Public House. They'd left somewhere around 10 o'clock. During the course of the journey, Lee had drawn her attention to a vehicle behind. It was tailgating, flashing lights, at some stage blowing its horn. Through the lanes to Cooper's Hill, it had continued to follow them, increasing in speed. And just before a keeper's cottage, it had actually overtaken and forced them to stop.
The passenger had got out and repeatedly stabbed her boyfriend, Lee Harvey, to death, and he had died in her arms, and that's all the police had to work on.
Throughout the day, police teams searched for a knife used in the attack. The murder hunt continues for a road rage killer.
In Harvey's hand were found more than 80 strands of Andrews' hair, which pathologists determined would have had to have been taken from her head with considerable force, i.e., through a physical struggle. Most notably, 2 witnesses came forward after Andrews' press conference to say that they had seen Harvey's white Ford Escort car driving past them on the lane, but that no vehicle was following it and that no other cars had been seen by them on that lane that evening. This disproved Andrews' story that she and Harvey had been attacked in a road rage incident. Having invented her story of how Harvey was murdered, Andrews had then gone on to hold Harvey's mother's hand and the hand of his sister. At the same time, she recounted the fabricated story in the National Press Conference of 3rd December. With suspicion mounting, she attempted self-exit on the day after the press conference by taking an overdose of sleeping tablets and tranquilizer. She was still in hospital 2 days later when police first arrested her and questioned her about the murder. After being discharged from the hospital, she was charged with the murder of Lee Harvey on the 19th December 1996. A day later, she was granted bail. Police believed she was ready to confess at this time. Still, she appeared to change her mind after speaking with her solicitor, Tim Robinson.
My client was arrested 3 minutes ago, and she is now being taken to Redditch Police Station. She has been arrested on suspicion of the murder.
She was interviewed at length, and this time she was, asked about the discrepancies, and the witness evidence was put to her.
They were asking questions and all this lot, and she said, "Okay, right, I want to tell you something now."
And it was at that point I really did think she was going to confess. She went very quiet, and there was a sort of pregnant pause in the interview, and I thought, yeah, she's going. And she asked to speak to a solicitor. We came out of the interview and I thought, she's going to tell us now what really happened. And they had something like a 45-minute consultation. When we went back in, she pretty much said, "I've got nothing further to say, I've got nothing else to tell you."
She has been interviewed at length by the police, and she has vehemently denied any involvement in the murder of her fiancé. And she stands by that total and absolute denial.
In a calculated move, Robinson successfully applied for reporting restrictions on the case to be lifted, claiming that police evidence against her was weak and tenuous. He appealed for new witnesses to corroborate her story, and even released a photo fit image, which many believed was made in the likeness of the first attending detective.
Tracy chose an unusually flamboyant solicitor who decided to lift reporting restrictions at the first magistrate's court appearance. That meant that every detail of that court case could then be repeated.
Police then discovered a penknife-shaped blood stain and impression in Andrews' boot, convincing police that she had carried the murder weapon and had disposed of it at the hospital. It was known that there had been a penknife in Harvey's car on the night of the murder. Andrews had spent long periods in the toilet at the hospital for unknown reasons.
We made a very extensive search of this area for the weapon. We couldn't assume that it had gone with the alleged assailant. We had to be sure that we made our best effort to find it.
The reality, as the evidence eventually showed, was that she had secreted it about herself. She must have slipped it inside one of her boots. It must have been in there when she was taken to hospital. It must have been in there while she was in the hospital. And then the evidence was she kept slipping away for long periods of time to one of the lavatories nearby within the hospital.
Can I go to the loo now? Of course, I'll take you.
She had put the knife closed within the snakeskin boot at the scene and then spirited it away through the hospital lavatory system. Within her boot was found, in blood, a stain which was the replica in its shape, dimension and size of a Swiss Army knife.
After examining her heavily blood-stained jumper, the police also determined that the blood had been sprayed onto her after she had stabbed through Harvey's carotid artery, explaining the distinctive blood-stain pattern. Andrews appeared at Birmingham Crown Court charged with murder on the 1st July 1997.
Tracy Andrews ran the gauntlet of press and television cameras today when she arrived at Birmingham Crown Court for the 10th day of her trial for the murder of her fiancé, Lee Harvey.
I think we all remember looking from the windows at Birmingham Crown Court and seeing the sort of like the entourage arrive, you know, and immediately everybody ran down the steps, out came the cameras, and I thought, how many shots of this girl do you want?
Prosecution case was geared to taking each element of what on the evidence we believed to be a deceit and seeking to expose it for what it was.
Police today set out the evidence to support their account of what they believe took place on the night of Lee Harvey's murder.
Sure, they were arguing. I'm sure there was one dickens of a row going on in that car at some stage. We believe that actually Tracy tried to leave the vehicle right outside Keeper's Cottage. It obviously moved quickly from being just perhaps a verbal dispute to some sort of physical assault between them.
Lee Harvey had sustained many, many injuries, something in the region of 30-odd, maybe 40. And a large number of those had been to the neck. She could not explain the injuries that had been sustained to his back. And the reality of that was that Lee Harvey had been stabbed whilst he was retreating. She was drenched in Lee Harvey's blood, particularly on her left side, particularly in her hair, particularly on her upper garments. She had been within range of that fountain spraying of arterial blood. Her account did not allow for that. She maintained she'd only gone over to Lee Harvey at a time after he was already lying on the floor. There was a minimum of about 7 minutes after Lee Harvey had sustained his fatal injuries, during which there was no attempt by the defendant to summon any help from the house.
The prosecution had been able to skillfully deconstruct her story to demonstrate its implausibility. 7 minutes had passed between Harvey being fatally stabbed. He was discovered by the occupant of the adjacent cottage. During that time, Andrews had not attempted to summon help from the houses on the road or anyone else. Andrews was sentenced to life imprisonment, with a recommendation that she serve at least 14 years. She appealed the sentence, claiming that she was the victim of a miscarriage of justice because of the damaging publicity surrounding her case, which is ironic given that it was her solicitor who appealed and was granted a lifting of reporting restrictions. In October 1998, 3 judges denied the appeal. Harvey's sister, Michelle, 29, said, I just want the bitch to rot in hell. She would not show her face today. She knows she was not getting out. I think she should hang." Harvey's mum, Maureen, echoed her daughter's thoughts. "I still believe that life should mean life. I am happy with the result. Justice has been done." His dad said, "We now want to draw a line under Tracy Andrews and start to rebuild our lives. She should stay where she is as far as we are concerned. The past 2 years have been an enormous burden for our family. Overwhelming evidence secured her conviction. She knows she murdered our son. She knows, and the world knows." 2 years after sentencing, Andrews would at long last admit to the murder. Andrews was released in July 2011. After 14 years in Ascombe Grange Prison near York, she was banned from traveling within 25 miles of her victim's family without supervision. When plans to release her were announced, a fellow female inmate and former prison lover of Andrews said that she had continued to act possessively and aggressively in relationships while in prison, revealing that Andrews had attacked and strangled her after seeing her speaking with her ex-girlfriend. The woman said she was opposed to her release and warned she would kill again. After her release, Andrews changed her name to Tia Carter and altered her appearance, undergoing £5,000 surgery through the National Health Service to change the shape of her distinctive jaw and dyeing her blonde hair black. This cost at the UK's expense was heavily criticized. However, she was thankfully refused official anonymity. Andrews met her bouncer husband, Phil Goldsworthy, when she started behind the bar in the pub where he worked, and in 2017 they married. It is understood he knows all about her past. Lee's mum wrote a book called Pure Evil: How Tracy Andrews Murdered My Son, Deceived the Nation, and Sentenced Me to a Life of Pain and Misery. She said, "Only 2 people know what really happened that night. Lee is dead, and all that has come out of Tracy's mouth to date has been lies. But I don't want to be like this, full of hatred. I just want a normal life now. I want to draw a line under this and get on with my life. There are a lot of families worse off than us, people who still don't know who murdered their loved ones, families who have had no justice. I want to campaign for the people it could happen to today, tomorrow, next year. It's already too late for us." This case serves as a reminder of the often hidden male domestic abuse. In the UK, a staggering 1 in 7, or 2.95 million men, will be a victim. Many thanks for listening to Lee's story. Until next time. Bye.